Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on another edition of 24 News with Kuhle. I am your host, Kuhle Kwetu Charles Masego. Today I have been given the honor to interview and have a conversation with the one and only founding father of Nollywood, the Oga of movies, Jerry Amilo. How is it, eh?
Fine, thank you. Nice to be here, Charles.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining us. It really is an honor to have you. You are the second international guest that we have had on the show. So it really is an honor to have you.
Thank you.
But how's Nigeria dealing with the COVID-19 situation that side? In terms of, I can see, how's COVID-19?
Well, if you ask me, I will tell you the truth. COVID-19 to Nigerians, to majority of Nigerians, is like fake. It's like, it doesn't, I must tell you the truth, because here in Nigeria, majority will tell you it's a scam. but me, I will tell you that the government, we are coping with it, though. The government is coping with it.
Also here in South Africa, you find people walking around. People don't believe that it's there. Some believe, but they don't take it seriously. So we don't know when it's going to end, though. But how are you guys coping in terms of producers when it comes to making movies, during COVID-19? Because I saw Yuli Dochi also is making a move at the moment. So how is Nollywood coping with making these movies?
Well, so far so good. It's been splendid because there's been no case. There's been no case in any camp. So it has made everything kind of cool. Nobody's bothering. Since we don't have any case of COVID-19 on any set, it's been free. We've been coping freely. It's been easy. We've been interacting as though the same way it was before the COVID-19 issue.
Here in South Africa it's different, with the fourth highest in the world, COVID-19. Here we're still in lockdown, so we can't really do many things here. But anyway, thanks for telling me all about, COVID-19 and all sorts. Now, one thing is that not many people may know this, but you went to the University of Nigeria and studied mechanical engineering. And what's funny is how you deviated from studying mechanical, or rather being a mechanical engineer, into going into acting. How or what made you take that risk from leaving mechanical engineering, which is a safe career field where you know that most likely you'll always have a job, to going to acting where you can have a role today and not know when you'll have another role?
Well, I will say the truth there is that my talent stole my mandate. Yeah, that's the truth. My talent stole my mandate because, I actually, when I was younger, if there was anything I wanted to do, was to be, an engineer. I wanted to be able to build, not just the plane, but a giant ship. When I was smaller, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I would tell you I want to build a boat. From building a boat, I could build a ship. You know what it means? But before I knew what happened to me, I found myself in showbiz. I started liking showbiz as I grew up. First I became a model. I modeled for a long time. We were the first set of models in Nigeria when modeling was nothing. Honestly, I must tell you, because the fashion show those days didn't exist in Nigeria. We had basically one, top modeling house and should I say, a fashion house. Then it was Nikki Africana back then. We called that Yaoge, and it was new to us. People didn't get to understand that because, of course, we had tailors, but if you're talking about designers' clothes, Nigerians will tell you, I bet I go buy them from market, Jerry. That's something we used to call I would call something we call okrika those days. They would rather go to the market and buy already made that will fit them instantly. They don't want to go into complaining. So as a result, we all became models, just to please the people, and we introduced, the first fashion show in Nigeria. So from there, I started deviating. I was still in school though. Before you knew it again, I was into the main acting showbiz. And from there on and on and on, events took place. So here we are now. We graduated. We're already making money from showbiz. So it wasn't easy to sit down inside a very big ship in the middle of the ocean, trying to fix one wire or the other to make money. Yeah. So that's just the truth.
Money.
That's just the truth.
Nollywood has really grown in the last 2 decades, from it starting in like your 1990s. Even though the Nigerian movie industry or filmmaking industry started back in the 60s by the legends Ola, Balagan, and Hobart, and then it started with them. But then Nollywood started basically in the late 90s or the middle-ish 90s, I could say. And it has grown into becoming the second biggest movie production house in the world, producing about 1,500 movies a year, which is fantastic, more than Hollywood itself. What would you contribute Nollywood's success to? What would you say is the reason behind Nollywood's success throughout the world?
Well, I would say I will start with Nigeria. Honestly, this question will start with Nigeria. I will attribute Nollywood to we being Nigeria. Typical Nigerians don't give up. Typical Nigerians don't believe that anything somebody else did somewhere else in the world that we cannot do it, even when we don't have experience about the same thing. So typically, Nollywood started like the normal thing like you see today. If Americans should, if the Chinese should create something like this, this is an earpiece, right? A typical Nigerian believes that we can make it. Probably our government don't get to support us, but typically Nigerians believe we can make this. So the case of Nollywood began as a result of what the kind of films we saw earlier. Initially, it was American films. Then came Chinese films. And then the Indian films. Initially, during the American period, the Hollywood movies that we watched were like this. It was like, we can't do it. Because this type of English they spoke, the phonetic was too much for us. So we kept quiet. We were watching. And then we started watching the Chinese people with all their magic. The kind of magic, the way they fly. We still kept quiet. We were like, okay, chin, 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 no problem. And then came the Indians. And we felt like, oh, I must confess to you, like me particularly, I saw, while I watched the Indian films, I saw a whole lot of loopholes. A whole lot of loopholes. Technical loopholes, grammatical loopholes, finishing loopholes. And I said to myself, if these people can do this thing, we can do it too. We can do it now. And then we started. Of course, before then already, we had theater arts that never went to, that were not like recorded in a tape for you to go back home and watch. You needed to go to the cinema to see them. So we had theater art groups that, kind of chunked out a whole lot of stage plays, back in the days in school, even before I got into university. We went to the, theater, National Theater to see a whole lot of, plays. From there, we started growing. And the typical Igbo man in us, we believe so we feed one.
One thing that I like about Nollywood is how Nollywood has been able to change the filming industry for Africa as a whole. In terms of how you've been to tell the African story, which is one beautiful thing that I think every other movie industry in the world doesn't have, aside from maybe your Bollywoods and your Chinas. But then we're able to tell the African story because our continent has got a bit of relation. Wherever you go, there's always some type of relation between, as for example, I can relate to some of the stories that you guys act out in Nollywood as well. So that's one of the beautiful things I think came out of Nollywood as well. But let's take this conversation a little bit back to the early 1990s, where you got your role, your first role as Anini in the movie Bruno and the Law. Do you consider that movie to be your major break? And if yes, how did it serve as a stepping stone?
Well, Bruno and the Law, that was the title of the movie. It's still the title of the movie till now. Came as the first major Nollywood action movie. We actually started shooting that movie in 1990. We started the preparation of that movie in 1990. That was after the coming of Living in Bondage. I don't want you to forget Living in Bondage, because it's one film that actually ushered Nollywood. You know, Taboo, Living in Bondage. Probably you don't know these ones. They were these stories. They were stories that told you that made us to understand more about our African culture, the one you already talked about. And then Bruno and the Law came as a result of a reality story, the first action reality story in Nollywood. When we began to shoot that film, I must confess, I was almost a novice. Yes, yeah, that's the truth. I didn't know much. In as much as I already tried shooting a movie in 1987, and because I didn't have much experience, that movie, Riches to Rags, never got to see the light of day. I didn't finish it, because then we didn't even, with the way we communicated nowadays, you know, now you can pick up your phone and call someone and say, where are you? You're supposed to be on set tomorrow. Please don't fail us. But those days, there was no phone. No phone to communicate anybody. You have a schedule to shoot, and you get to the person's house, it's traveled. You have to wait. So, yeah, honestly, a whole lot of bunch. But after all that, when we started Bruno and the Law, when the story came out, and it was a story of Anene, and I want to remind you that Anene used to be a gruesome criminal who killed a whole lot of people during his time here in Nigeria. And the president at that time, Babangida, never liked that. And he made sure, he told the IG, Inspector General of Police, to make sure that he gave him 2 weeks to capture Anene. So we had to interpret that in a story. After the capturing of Anene, we had to do that story. And that was the first story. And I must tell you, honestly, it was my first break. Yes, it was my first break. Because I played the role of Bruno and the Law. Bruno in the Bruno and the Law. Let me tell you one secret about that. They were already rehearsing for 4 months. They had done their cast. They were trying to cast. You know, those days, not like today. You know, nowadays, we just cast one person and that's it. No, those days, there's something we call double casting, triple casting, fourth casting. It may not exist in your language, but then it means that you've not gotten the role yet. There are about 4 of you fighting to take this particular role. So for 4 months, they were already on, and I came around and I looked at the cast list, and I saw the first name there was Bruno. And I went to ask a question, who is this Bruno? And they talked about the person. I said, and I told my auntie, I said, you see this Bruno? I'm going to play this Bruno. Nobody believed me because it was already 4 months. But eventually, when the director-producer, Chinedu Onuchima, we'll call him Koskowi, his real name's Chinedu Onuchima. When he saw me, it took him 3 weeks or almost 4 weeks to even try me. He didn't want to try me. They kept on giving me one you know, waka pass to go and play one of those gunmen, and I was like, no, I can't. It took this guy 3 weeks. 3 weeks to give me a chance to come on set and just try to see if I can play it. during the rehearsal, because those days we rehearsed for almost 6 months, trying to perfect whatever we're doing. And the moment he gave me that chance, I was with my friend, may he still rest in peace, that is JT Tom West, the Godfather. There were 2 of us that came, and I told JT, I'm going to play this role. When that guy gave me that chance to try Bruno, my brother, Charles, I stole it. I grabbed the role Bruno here, and I won't let it go. There were a whole lot of people who were supposed to play that role. I beat them all. And at the end of the day, I got to play Bruno. I was very small, though, very young. I won't tell you my age. I know I wasn't up to 19. You know? So it was my break, though. It was my break. You know, it was my break. And from there, after that movie, the people got to understand that, yes, we can do it, because we really took time to shoot. We shot that movie for almost 2 years. Yes, we did. We shot that movie we started shooting probably in towards the end of 92. Yeah. And then we shot from 92 across 93. You know, towards the end of 93, we completed the movie, and the movie didn't even come out until 94.
You know, now that you say that you shot that movie for about 2 years, honestly, I read somewhere a few days ago where it spoke about Nollywood can now shoot movies between 7 to 10 days. So now I want to know that, because some movies can be shot there in terms of, that's what I read. So I want to know in terms of, how did that happen from shooting from 2 years to happening in a matter of 2 weeks? How did it change so quickly?
Well, I must say, the truth here is should I say technology, fast understanding, because remember those days we were almost novice, we were learning, and those days we played. If we needed you to grow beards, we go allow you to grow your beard. If we needed you to get fat, to allow you to get fat. You need to get skinny, we allow you to give you time to do all this, which is professionally the way it should be done. So those days it took that long time to get all this. But nowadays, it's not happening anymore. Nowadays, I must confess that you get a set right now and you're going to wear your costume and you're going to hear action. Between 30 minutes of you getting on set, you're already on set. You're already with your costume. And you've got an action to. But those days, no, it doesn't happen that way. When you come on set, they will tell you that, okay, today you're not going to shoot. You need to, either you hang around and watch what's going on, or you go back to your hotel and wait for probably another 2-3 days before it gets to your turn, because nobody's in a hurry nowadays. But today, you know, movie industry, in Nollywood industry has become a little bit of, you know, all-commerce affair. But I want you to also understand that it is only natural. People love it and they want to do it, and they wouldn't want to wait to learn how to do it properly. You understand? If they could only wait to do it properly, I get things to continue to go the right way. But it's also good, I must tell you. It's also good because it makes the people to understand that all that glitters is not gold. If you think you can make it within 2 weeks, well, the results will show. A movie made between 4 days and 7 days, you understand, the results will tell you, if a movie is made within 3 months, you'll be able to tell. The continuity tells a lot because the stress will be showing. But, you know, we there here, Nana, we there here.
You know, I never used to understand how difficult it was to act and make a movie till I got to, I think it was about 2016, when I was given a role, but it was a theater production. I was given a role to act as a fox in the Disney Pinocchio at school. And then now that it was a theater thing, I had to learn that never face your back towards the audience. Unlike on TV, where you could stand anyhow, well, you'd stand in a natural position in TV, unlike on the theater. And then it happened last year that we made a short movie. And I also learned, movies are difficult to make because it took like one scene the whole day. And I used to think that in one day you can just finish the whole movie. Like a movie is 1 hour something minutes. I thought that's how much time it is just to shoot. So now that you know that someone knows more about movies, you know the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of hard work, you've got more respect for the actors themselves and how much they take out of themselves to act and put a fine display on whatever role they're representing out there.
Let me tell you something here. Huh? Movie making depends on the director mostly. But here in Nigeria, here in Nollywood, I will tell you that it's you know, some good directors found themselves in a web where the producers gets to dictate to them what they want. And they don't have a choice but to do that. And if you don't do what the producers tell you, you get out of a job. But even at that, we still have good directors who will not take that shit. Sorry to use that language. Yeah. We still have good directors who tell you, look, I want to do my casting. I know it's your job. Can you just hand this over to me to interpret fully as a director? And if those directors get to do their job, I bet you they will do a good cast. They will do a good casting. They will never shoot for 7 days. No matter how small the movie is, no matter how small the story is, they will take their time, get a good location, get good props, do good interpretation, dialogue interpretation, submount. Because one thing is to get to understand what you're playing, and the other is for you to just to be reading it. You pick up a script, and they say Obi is a boy, and all you have to say is Obi is a boy. Oh, come on. Where is the flavor? So as much as that is concerned, we still have good directors who will interpret their jobs, and so far so good, their jobs are doing well. There are just few of us though. Few of us. So I don't want you to take it home that truly all movies are made like within 7 days in Nollywood. That's not true. That's not true. At least amongst the whole films you've seen, you can still pick out some few that you say, okay, no, I like this one. This is good. You know, you understand what I'm saying? I just want to correct that. We'll say have good directors who still do good jobs.
And, you know, when you say good directors and all sorts, I especially enjoy your movies when it comes to your movies like with Zubi Michael, Yuli Dochi. I love them because I can see really the amount of work that you do put in there. It's great. I mean, here in South Africa, Nollywood is huge. I'm not sure if you know that, but here we do watch Nollywood. There's a market for Nollywood, let me say that, in South Africa, that there are people that watch Nollywood, and it really is a very entertaining movie production house in the world. But let me take this conversation to about your 27 years of acting. You have acted for about 27 years, if we count from the first movie that you released, which was Bruno and the Law. And I'm not sure if you know this as well. You have done over 250 movies. And that is fantastic. You have done over 250 movies. When comparing you to the likes of Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, who have done 53 and 133 movies, respectively, how have you coped with the volume of scripts that come to you in Nollywood?
Well, I would say charity, they say, begins at home. I'm a well-trained actor. I'm a stage actor. I am what you call screen actor. Mm-hmm. I'm also a poet. So whenever you bring a story to me, whenever I get a script, I read the understanding only. The basic thing I pick out from the story is the understanding, what the writer is trying to paint. And the moment I can grasp that, it becomes easy for me to interpret that story. You know, rather than trying to read the dialogue, trying to play with the dialogue or understanding the story from what the person is trying, the kind of English is written with. No. What I do with the stories is to understand what the writer has painted. And then it's now left to me to do what? To finish it. Let me give you this scenario. We have builders, we have contractors, we have bricklayers. And when the contractor comes, he employs bricklayers. Don't forget to have an architect, somebody who draws the plan of the house. And when they are done with all this, they build the house, skeletal. You know, when you build a house and you've not painted the house, then in turn, when you're done with that, you employ a painter who is going to paint the house. No matter how beautiful that house is, if the painter is not a good painter, that house is doomed. Because the painter might as well buy black paint and paint the whole house black. And then the same building is given to me as a painter. And I look at the building and I feel like, wow, a little bit of brown and white or this or that, this house is going to come out well. So I end up painting, probably using about 3 colors to bring out the image of that building. I guarantee you that it will never be the same with the guy that painted with black all through. So that's what happens to scripts. When we are given a script, in all the films that I've shot, you said 250. My brother, and I lie you, I've shot over 300. Charles, I've shot over 300. Forget the book. But let me just continue with the 250 because it's fair enough. It's many enough. Or rather, it is one too many. So, whenever I pick up a script, so long as I can digest what the writer is trying to, preach, then it becomes so easy for me when I get on set. So once I flip a scene and I read through, it's already here. All I need to do is to interpret the inner mind of the writer who didn't have enough time to put it that way. You understand? Just like if you watched my movie Across the Border, where I used the word Isoyochadago, Mama Ibugomo, all those things. The only thing that was written there in that column was, Mama, I've made money. Mother, I've made money. That's the exact language. Mother, I've made money. And I read it and I said, okay, now I just come back home, pack my car, somebody who just came back from Europe, who made a whole lot of money. And all I have to tell my mother is, Mother, I've made money. And I said, okay, no problem. The moment the director said action, my brother, the story changed. First, I cruised in the car into the compound, spin the car around, park the car, open up the music, pump the music, started screaming, Mommy, more, Mommy, more, Mommy, more. She's not answering me. She gets to answer me, I'm back home. God, for God's sake, I'm not going to say, Mommy, I made money. I say, Mommy, more. She came out, everybody came out. I called everybody out. I said, where is everybody? When my mother was looking at me, I lifted her up. She wouldn't get that. I went back into the car. I got money. I got cash. I had to produce cash by myself. It was my own props. I started spraying her money. I said, Mommy, Mo. He said, what? I said, if I tell you the meaning of that, you will laugh. What it means that the head of the white man has fallen down. Meaning that everything stole from us, our forefathers, because naturally we believe that the white people stole from our forefathers. There's no lies about that. They stole from us, and they're still stealing from us. So it means that everything that the white people stole from our forefathers, I've gone back to the white people and I've gotten it back. So that's the meaning of Isorocha Dago. And then he says, what am I? I say, Mommy, I've made money. You see how long it took me to interpret a single line that said, Mother, I've made money. I've made money. It is different from when you start reading script. A whole lot of new actors and actors, should I say, just read the script. They don't act. So if you are a good painter and you're given a building to paint, don't paint it all black. No matter how gigantic or how beautiful that building is, once you paint it all black, it won't come out again.
You know, one of my favorite scenes in one of the movies that you acted in was one with Zubi Michael, where Zubi Michael, basically you were like the uncle to Zubi Michael, but not related exactly. And then Zubi Michael went to Ghana to make money, then came back and said, "Uncle, uncle." That probably is one of my favorite Nollywood scene ever. And wherever, I think it's the Waka Pass, where they were shooting up in the air, the gunmen. That's
I
one of my
to follow him to Ghana.
I watched it. You went to Ghana as well.
To go and make money. At old age.
On a lighter note, do you know how many, or do you know all the 300 movies you have made, on a lighter note?
Hey, come on, don't, please. This is a punishment. Question is punishment you're giving to me. But the truth is that I can't remember all, honestly. Sometimes when I'm asked to write some films, some titles of films that I've shot in the past, so it's like, can you just put down about 10 names of the films you've shot? Do you know I don't get to remember all? I might end up writing like 2 and I forget the rest. Ask me why. Why? Because when we shoot films and you have the idea of a particular title and the movie comes out with a particular title in the market, this market is where they sell CDs. You find out that the movie itself has a different name. The marketers give it a different name. Now when that movie goes online, the marketers give it a different name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it goes to YouTube, I mean, yeah, when it's on YouTube, it's a different name. When it goes to DSTV, that is when it's playing on TV, it's a different name. So how do you expect me to even know which one again? Sometimes people get to tell me the movie, my latest movie. I'm telling you the gospel truth. And when they're telling me the names, I'm just like, can you just tell me what happened in the movie, what I did in the movie so I can remember the name? And after the person tells me what I did in the movie, I'm like telling the person the name I know, and the person is telling me, no, it's not that one. I said, at the end of the day, I find out that it has a different name online. So the answer here is, there's no way I'm going to be able to name all the films that I've shot, except few that are very close to my heart, or the ones that I've made myself.
From acting as a thief, terrorist, cultist, businessman, entrepreneur, uncle, father in all the movies, how difficult has it been for you to sort of transition between all these roles quickly? Because, you know, when you compare Nollywood to other movie hubs, there's usually someone like Denzel Washington who will only have one role, which is like the action role. And then in Nollywood, someone can be a priest one day, next day he's going to a cult. So how, because that should be difficult, how do you transition and make that look so easy?
The first thing I always tell my students is to have the ability to remove the suit called character when you're done with it. When you pick up a character, it's like a suit, and you wear it. And once the director says cut, you should be able to remove that suit, drop it, and be yourself. That way you can be able to interpret different characters. But when you wear a suit from the first time, and that suit, you never get to remove that suit, and all you do is you put a fresh one on it, and each time you put a fresh one on it, come on, you're going to be so heavy, you will not be able to interpret anywhere. But the ability to interpret different characters is being able to making yourself to understand that, look, I'm just playing this role. It's not me. this is not me. If you're given a character to play in a movie, I think you should be able to look into the character and say, okay, fine, look out for one person, somebody you used to know, probably somebody you never liked his character or her character, and you pick up that person's characteristics and apply it to this character and begin to behave like that person. You understand? And the moment the director says, cut, you're done with it. You remove it, and then that's not you. That way, it becomes easy when you're interpreting different characters. That's what helps me. I can become a madman. I've seen mad people on the street, and the moment you give me a role, the moment you give me a role to play as a madman, all I need to do is,
remember,
check out how did that madman behave. I think I'm going to behave like him now, and then I'll do that and I'll remove that. And if you give me the role of a doctor, I'm going to do the same. The same is applicable to all characters. If you are able to depict a character and remove it from yourself instantly and be yourself, then you will be able to interpret different characters. Even when I'm given the role of a Reverend Father, I need to go back into my shell and ask myself, Holy One, how do my Reverend Father behave on the altar? Oh, holy. So I'm going to go back and pick up his character and become holy in your face. And the moment I'm done with that, I'm going to drop that. So with this, I'm able to interpret different characters. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand. I actually now get to understand how you are changing, and because I never thought about it that way. Because I'm like, one day I see Jerry's a priest, one day Jerry is going somewhere there, one day Jerry's a thief, one day Jerry's just... So, as an actor, producer, as well as a director, what's your vision for Nollywood in the next 10 years? What would you like to see Nollywood become in the next 10 years, as well as what would you like to leave for the next generation of actors, producers, as well as directors?
First, I want to say I wish and I pray that the federal government, I'm talking about Nigeria now, I'm praying that the federal government to see reasons to begin to help us, to invest, to begin to help us, because all this while, if I tell you that the federal government has not put in one kobo,
really?
If they did, they didn't give us. I never see it. And the one they give us, we've not been able to access all. And you cannot even compare that to the percentage of time that we've already spent. So I want to start by saying, if only companies can see that movie making generates a whole lot of money and also employ a whole lot of people from all sections of life, you know, if they can play their role and join us, help us to build this industry, then in the next 10 years, I tell you that Nollywood will be one of the biggest employers. One of the biggest employers in this country. I'm telling the gospel truth. And Nollywood, in the next 10 years, Nollywood will be able to give birth to a whole lot of already made producers who will in turn make other producers who will in turn make the youth to deviate from the focus of going astray, who will in turn encourage the youth to understand that, look, our future is not in the hand of the government, but we can also make a living from our talent. What I'm trying to say here, that in the next 10 years, if only the companies and the government can help us, support us in what we're doing, Nollywood will be one of the best companies that anybody can work with.
That is true, because, you know, Nollywood has really grown, really grown. From acting, even just on DSTV, where I usually watch Nollywood. Now you're even on Netflix. There have been movies like Chief Daddy that came out 2 years ago that have been so huge that I think took Africa by storm. The quality behind Chief Daddy, the quality of the camera work, that's where you get to see Nollywood at its best. When you watch movies like 10 Days in Sun City, Chief Daddy. And also Nollywood has started making movies in other African countries, like my country, South Africa, 10 Days in Sun City, which even empowered our own actors ourselves, like Celeste and Dooley, some of the guys that were from South Africa that acted there. So Nollywood has, I think, in my mind, has done its own share in terms of growing the African movie brand. But anyway, in your mind, can I ask, how has Nollywood assisted in promoting a sense of African unity throughout the continent and releasing what Steve Biko would refer to as black consciousness, understanding the black person, the black person's story, the black person's life, and all sorts?
You know, at the beginning of your speech, you said you are glad that what made you happy, what makes you happy is the kind of stories that we chunk out. Culturally, you find out that Nollywood has helped to tell the world that we have our own culture, that the black man has a culture. And this is what happened in those days that you were not aware, and what is happening right now, and compare the difference. So I will tell you that Nollywood has been able to do what? To portray the African culture to the white man in a different manner. And also to correct the notion of what the world understands about the Africans. Because these people believe that we're living on top of the trees.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys in South Africa, you are lucky because you're mixed with the whites.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that much white people down here mixed with us or trying to share our culture. And then in quote, people out there in America, they actually believe that we actually live on the trees. Okay, the Nollywood movie has been able to tell them that no, we don't just live on the trees only. We make use of the trees as well. Yeah. We don't only live on the trees as well. We have homes. We don't just stay out there in the sun. We have ACs, air conditions in our houses. We don't just use bicycles or use cows or donkeys to walk. We have cars. We also fly private jets. That is why in Nollywood movies, you're able to understand people make money and buy jets. They buy big cars. It's a life that the white people live. We just want them to understand that, look, in as much as we try to live our life, we also imbibe a little bit of theirs, but back home, we still have our lives to live. So Nollywood is strictly pushing African culture to the world. And so far, so good. I don't need to boast. Make it don't be outside the boast.
You know, when you say that Nollywood now, you can afford, for example, private jets and cars and big cars. It was Akon who said a few years ago, I think, he spoke about the way also Americans view Africa and said that the stars like Davido from Nigeria, he owns that car, the car that you see in the music video. We as Africans own it. We don't rent it. And I think it's time that there's an understanding amongst the rest of the world that Africa is not the way you see it, as if we've got animals in the backyard or something like that. So, I mean, because even here in South Africa, I've got a priest, because I'm Catholic, a priest who comes from Poland. And then he said that he went to Poland and then came back after Christmas and said that his friends in Poland asked him that, are there giraffes in your backyard? And then he said no. Instead they put big cars, big BMW, big this.
Good. You can imagine that. This is the way they look at us. And so Nollywood has been able to tell them that it's not the way it is. This is the way we are. We are also human beings, and we don't just live on the trees like animals. We have homes, and we are living comfortable. You know, let me not talk too much because I don't see some people, they watch us.
Lastly, what's your advice for those that want to join the movie making industry, especially in Nollywood? Well, thank you guys for joining. I guess there was a bit of a connection issue with Jerry, but that's cool. At least we've gotten to the tail end of the conversation. It has been really great. Thanks, guys, for the support. Please keep safe during these times of COVID-19, guys. Thanks for watching. Please come again and join me next week for another super interview next week. Okay, thanks a lot.